Jnana Shastra Vicharanaika Nipuno Saddharma Samstapako Lokanam Hitakarino Tribhuvane Manyo Saranya Karo Radha Krishna Padaravinda Bhajana Nande Namataliko Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghuyugo Shri Jiva Gopalako Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghuyugo Shri Jiva Gopalako. In the translation, I offer my respectful obeisances unto the six Goswamis, Shri Rupa Goswami, Shri Sanatan Goswami, Shri Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Shri Raghunath Das Goswami, Shri Jiva Goswami, and Shri Gopal Bhatta Goswami, who are very expert in scrutinizingly studying all the revealed scriptures with the aim of establishing eternal religious principles for the benefit of all human beings. Thus they are honored all over the three worlds, and they are worth taking shelter of because they are absorbed in the mood of the gopis and are engaged in the transcendental loving service of Radha and Krishna. Then Srila Rupa Goswami Pranam Mantra. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam. When will Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, who is established within this material world, the mission to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya, give me shelter under his lotus feet? You can say with me, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we shall continue with completing text number 2 today, as well as we may begin text number 3. So let's get to text number 2, the verse and the translation. You can say it with me. Atyahara prayasascha prajalpo niyamagraha janasangascha laulyam cha sadbid bhaktir vinashyati. And the translation, once devotional service is spoiled, when it becomes too entangled in the following 6 activities. 1. Eating more than necessary or collecting more funds than required. 2. Endeavoring for mundane things that are very difficult to obtain. 3. Talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters. 4. Practicing the scriptural rules and regulations only for the sake of following them and not for the sake of spiritual advancement. Or rejecting the rules and regulations of the scriptures and working independently or whimsically. And 5, associating with worldly minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness. And 6, being greedy for mundane achievements. 1 second. So I'll just say the Mangala Charana. Amagyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanabhyo Vaishnavabhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So from this text number 2, we have covered in the last 2 days Atyahara, which indicates eating more than necessary or collecting more funds than required. And in that aspect of prayasa, which is the second one, if you eat more than necessary and collect more funds than required, then prayasa indicates we over endeavor for mundane things that are very difficult to obtain. And we have covered yesterday prajalpa, talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters. And also we almost covered completely niyamagraha, which indicates practicing the scriptural rules and regulations only for the sake of following them, but not for advancement in Krishna consciousness, or for that matter, even rejecting the rules and regulations and working independently or whimsically. So now we'll go over to slide number 35, just to conclude that niyamagraha. So Srila Prabhupada says in paragraph 16 that the solution to niyamagraha is that one should very faithfully accept scriptural rules and regulations for the advancement of Krishna consciousness. They should strictly follow the regulative principles by avoiding illicit sex, meat eating, gambling, and intoxication. So you can put me back on the screen. So this indicates that we follow the rules and regulations to make advancement in Krishna consciousness. And if you follow the rules and regulations not for the advancement of Krishna consciousness, that is called niyamagraha. At the same time, we should not act independently or whimsically by not following the rules and regulations in Krishna consciousness. So this sort of comes to some conclusion of this term called niyama, rules and regulations, agraha, which indicates eager to accept but not for advancement in Krishna consciousness, and agraha means failure to accept by acting independently or whimsically by not following the rules and regulations. So if you have any questions that's pending on the basis of niyamagraha, you can ask now. Otherwise, we'll get to the next 2 items in this verse. Jana Sangha Chalo Lepcha. They go together. Anyone? So Krishna Prema, so I should move ahead? Or you can raise your hand.
There is one person named Manjari Pal have a question.
Manjari, can you come onto the screen?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, it's Nitya Sakhi. I'm using
Nitya
my daughter.
Sakhi. Come onto the screen. Yes, tell me, Nitya Sakhi, tell me.
Yes, Bharat Maharaj, you were explaining to us about Niyamagra. We start following it. We do all the activities since it, but how we will understand how we are advancing. That is my question.
Oh, very nice question. In other words, put me back onto the screen. It's a practical question. In other words, her question goes like this. Nityasaki's question goes like this, that how do we know that we are in Niyamagra or not in Niyamagra to make spiritual advancement? Because sometimes we may follow the rules, but in the consciousness of following the rules, we are not in relation to making advancement, but actually just following the rules for some reason or the other. It also could be for material motivation. So how do we know whether it's Niyamagra or not Niyamagra? That requires the association of devotees. In other words, when one is open to associate with devotees favorably, then devotees may remind you, look, you're following nicely, but why are you following? So they may tell you that, in relation to being friendly with devotees, not really somebody who will correct you on the basis of criticizing you, not like that, in the name of correction. So it's very important to actually, or maybe most important in a sense, to be in the positive association of devotees as much as we can, who can help us in our spiritual advancement on the basis of Krishna consciousness and not just following the rules and regulations. Is that all right, Nityasaki?
So, yes, Maharaj, thank you very much.
Okay. Any other questions on this point of Niyamagraha?
Akansha Mataji have a question. Mataji, can unmute yourself and come speak.
Hare Krishna, Dhanvat Pranam Maharaj.
Hare
Please accept
Krishna.
my humble obeisances unto the dust of your lotus feet. Maharaj, we spoke about, like yesterday you told us about a lesser rule for higher rule, breaking a lesser rule. But is
Yes.
it okay if sometimes you have to give up some service towards your family for fulfilling one important service for the Lord in the temple? So, because it is also equally responsible, like you said, that taking proper responsibility of your family is as important as you are doing your service.
Yes. It's a practical question. Nice. Taking care of your family members is because they are part and parcel of Krishna also. Now, whether they are devotees or not, that's not important. So Krishna consciousness does not mean that one comes to the point of breaking up relationships with families. No. Rather, practicing Krishna consciousness brings one more together and closer to one's family members. For example, Krishna consciousness makes you a better mother. Krishna consciousness practices makes you a better father, husband, wife, or son or daughter. So when the other members who may not be practicing Krishna consciousness as you desire them to practice, because of you being a devotee, and they're not going to really listen to you, but when they see that the process of Krishna consciousness is making you a more worthy member of the family, like being a better mother or better father, husband, wife, son, or daughter, then they actually appreciate Krishna consciousness. Yes, since they may say like the son or daughter may say, oh, since my mother has become involved in chanting Hare Krishna mantra, I could see that, she's not so angry with us all the time, something like that. See, she's more polite with us and she's not shouting anymore at the children. So, like that. So in other words, one's good qualities become manifest naturally when one takes to Krishna consciousness, and the other members of the family can notice that. So that's very encouraging for them that, why not I try this sometime in the future? They may do so. So that's a service to them. That when you serve your family members better than when you used to do before practicing Krishna consciousness, that's a big plus for them to become devotees gradually. in that way. Is that all right?
Yes, thank you so much, Maharaj. Thank you.
So it's not exactly breaking a lesser rule for a higher rule. It's not exactly like
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
Other questions?
Thank you, Maharaj.
There is a question from Prema Manjari Mataji. You can
Tell her to
speak.
come onto the screen.
Prema Manjari Mataji, you can speak.
Emma, where are you? Come onto the screen.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Tell me. Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, I was only wondering that about this Niyam Agraha thing.
No, you'll have to, Prema, you have to speak a little louder. Come closer to your microphone.
I'm saying that the question is related to the Niyam Agraha point.
Yes.
We practice the spiritual rules and regulations not just for the sake of following them, but for the sake of making spiritual advancement. But over the time, actually becomes like, it becomes like a practice to just, although our intention was to make spiritual advancement, but slowly it becomes like a, like a routine thing, and we know that it's for the purpose of, reaching a goal, but it becomes like a, like a routine, like there's no enthusiasm, like you're just doing it.
Yes, we're going to discuss enthusiasm in text number 3. Utsaha Nishchaya Tarya. We're going to come to that point. However, just to respond to your query for now, is that, Krishna consciousness may appear to be a little bit mechanical and routine in some stages of one's practice in Krishna consciousness. But that's the mind that's telling you that. The mind is telling you, oh, you have to do this every day, chant japa, you have to follow the principles, like that. Why can't you do something interesting, like, don't chant this morning, just go out and sit in the park or go and watch one movie or something like that, His mind is very naughty in that sense. So the mind tells us that, it is routine and it is boring and it is mechanical, but it is not. And what's the proof? What's the proof? And I'm about to explain the proof, but don't do what I'm about to say. So one devotee, very sincere devotee, like that, he thought this is like boring and mechanical and routine, so he stopped chanting his japa. And he stopped chanting not for very long, probably 3 days or plus minus 3 days, in that way. However, when he began chanting again after those 3 days of stopping to chant, he realized that this chanting is actually the best thing. See? So in other words, when you stop practicing, then you'll get the value of what you are missing. But we don't advise you to do that. We don't advise you to do that. You should continue to chant. But when you stop chanting, then you realize this is not really mechanical. This is not really, routine. It's my very food. It's my very nutrition. It's my very, it's my very life that I should be chanting my japa in the morning. It's very important. And then also another devotee, when she stopped at japa and so forth, I'm saving the names because we are respecting people in the absence. It's one of our norms. Yeah. She told me that when she stopped chanting, then like the material desires rose more into her mind and she was fearful and scared. How is this now coming? So when she spoke with me, and I said, look, I know you very well and you know me very well, but I can see in your face that, and in your eyes that you're really not chanting your rounds. She said, how do you know? I said, the fact is you're telling me that you have these desires, it indicates that you're not chanting your rounds, because Radha and Krishna will protect you from your own material desires, not to be executed into action or activity. Excuse me. So then I encourage them what to do to get back to chanting. And gradually, over time, it's like it took for her probably almost 6 months or so. Gradually over time, she came back to a sane or natural condition of practicing nicely again Krishna consciousness. But we don't advise you to do it. But that's the testimony of devotees who felt it was boring, mechanical, or whatever, or routine. But we'll discuss enthusiasm to continue again in Krishna consciousness in text number 3 when we come to it. Anyone else for now?
Prananath Prabhu has a question.
Okay, Prananath, just be careful of your sound. It has some echo. Prananath Prabhu. Come onto the screen.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
You have to fix your echo for the sound. But just tell me your question quickly.
I wanted to know whether Niyama Graha thing is more subjective, because every individual is different. Like for me, it's breaking rules is more conditioning. For my sister, she's very strict. She follows some rules. Like she's a habit of following rules. So is it subjective conditioning whether we'll be able to follow it or break it? Because I am more like independent. My sister is very strict. So she is able to follow that and I am not. So is that
Okay,
conditioning teaching?
Good question. Now let's go back to the translation and it answers your question. The translation for number 4, it says practicing the scriptural rules and regulations only for the sake of following them and not for the sake of spiritual advancement. Or rejecting the rules and regulations of the scriptures and working independently or whimsically. So you mentioned the word that you are independent. See? So your independence, if you're not following the rules nicely, means you're misusing your independence. Independence is always there for everyone. Either you misuse your independence or you use it properly. So you have to learn to use your independence properly and not act whimsically, according to what is said. See? So in order for you to do that specifically, you should follow your sister's instructions. She's good association for you. Is that all right? So we need good association to follow nicely. So you have it right there, your sister. All right? So I'll just conclude with this and move on to the next 2 features of this verse, but we'll conclude with breaking a lesser rule for a higher rule, which is not niyamagraha. I did mention this also in the Nectar of Devotion series, but it's good to remind ourselves. Yeah. In the Nectar of Devotion, there's a rule in chapter 8 that one should not eulogize or praise anyone else before the deity. It's a rule. So one time in Bombay, one devotee was appreciating another devotee to Srila Prabhupada in front of Srila Prabhupada's deities, before the deities were installed in Mumbai. And then suddenly the devotee, he checked himself and he told Srila Prabhupada, I'm very sorry. I was glorifying the devotee in front of the deity, but according to the Nectar of Devotion, we should not do that. See? Then Srila Prabhupada replied that Krishna is already glorified, but it takes more pleasure when his devotees are glorified. And then there's that nice verse from Lord Shiva to Parvati, Aradhananam sarvesham Vishnu aradhanam param tasmat parataram devi tadiyanam samachana, which indicates that that higher than the worship or service to Vishnu or Krishna is serving tadiyanam samachana, is serving devotees and things, items, or related to Krishna or Vishnu. So we should know that although we should not forget the deity, but if one remembers the deity and glorifies the Vaishnava in front of the deity feels more pleasure. So there's no kind of offense of breaking a lesser rule for a higher rule of glorifying someone in front of the deity. And similar way also, breaking a lesser rule practically daily in this example is that Srila Prabhupada accepted Guru Puja in front of the deities. And when one disciple asked him about this, Srila Prabhupada replied that our goal is to develop our love for Krishna. And that is more important than the little rules and regulations. So in other words, Srila Prabhupada felt that for us, Guru Puja will help us to develop love for Krishna rather than following the rule of not to worship anyone in the temple. So in other words, Srila Prabhupada knew our consciousness, so that it means that some rules may be more important and some rules may be less important. But the acharya or the devotee, the advanced devotee, can guide us, as to what the proper perspective is to follow such rules. So it's very, very important. In the same way, Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, he gave many reasons not to fight. But when he realized that his fighting is for the higher purpose and to follow Krishna's instructions, and Arjuna fought on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Another nice example, which is given by His Holiness Brhat Swami, is that in the first Pandal program in Delhi, which was highly successful, in the early 70s, the program was sort of helped tremendously by like an aristocratic family from Delhi, who Prabhupada had acquaintance. So the hosts of that aristocratic family, the elders, they invited the devotees, as a reciprocation and thanking them of being such a nice service. And when Srila Prabhupada came with his disciples to the host's home, so the mother of the home, she prepared nice eatables for the devotees. Right? And when they began serving the eatables to Srila Prabhupada, when Srila Prabhupada ate something and then another devotee had the same preparation, they're all sitting with Srila Prabhupada. So another devotee realized there's onions in the preparation, like that. So the devotee indicated to Srila Prabhupada, there's onions here. And Srila Prabhupada looked up and said, there is no onions. See? But there were onions. Prabhupada said, there is no onions. See? So in other words, Prabhupada broke a lesser rule for the higher rule because that family did so much service for the Pandal program and he reciprocated with them. See? And there were onions there because they didn't know better at that time, the host. So we should be careful that Srila Prabhupada did things to break a lesser rule for a higher rule. And carefully and deliberately we should understand Srila Prabhupada's purpose. And we should also try as best as we can to follow. Not that we go around now eating onions and sabji and so forth like that. So it's sometimes, it's just one time that happened, but that was not repeated again. So I thought of giving these examples and breaking a lesser rule for a higher. All right, we'll move along and we can put on slide 36, which are the last two items and they go together from this verse. Jana Sangha gives rise to lowliya. So in the translation, Jana Sangha means associating with worldly minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness. And lowliya means and being greedy for mundane achievements. And Prabhupada says in paragraph 17, that this Jana Sangha means one should also avoid association with Mayavadis, who simply blaspheme Vaishnavas or devotees. So that's very important from paragraph 17. It includes that, the Mayavadis or impersonalists in relation to Jana Sangha. Now you'll see in the translation itself on the screen that when one associates with worldly minded persons, that will lead to lolium. In other words, their association will contaminate you, and then you'll also become greedy for mundane achievements, which is lolium, which is in the translation itself. Okay, you put me back onto the screen. Now you will find this kind of discussion that we have in relation to Jana Sangha that gives rise to lolium will also be like discussed in text number 3 and possibly in other texts, but I'm discussing it elaborately here so that we can briefly mention it when we come to those purports in the forthcoming text. Yeah. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has actually advised us that, asat sangha tyag. Asat sangha tyag means we should reject the association of non-devotees without telling them. Without telling them. In other words, don't tell them I'm not supposed to associate with you. You are a asat sanghi, not like that. See? And a Vaishnavacha. So this is the proper behavior of a devotee. See? And Sri Sangi, we should also note that we should not associate with women for sense gratification. Whether within marriage or outside of marriage, we should be careful for that. Why? Because it makes one eka asadu. It changes your disposition in your consciousness from being a saintly person to asadu, not a saintly person. See? Krishna abhakta are. That means they are not devotees of Krishna. So what does this mean? This means that we should give association but not take association. We can avoid their company on the basis of not taking association, which is actually very important. Okay? And Sri Sangi indicates something like this, that one gets the idea of exploiting and abusing women, or girls for that matter, nowadays, yeah, by associating with men who are of bad character. So when one associates with men who are of bad character, low-class men, and you are a cultured person, but you'll get the ideas from them to actually exploit and abuse women. So one should be careful of such association in relation to Sri Sangi. And our bhaktas are also categorized as atheists, and like we said, Mayavadis, and also pretenders who may dress themselves as devotees, but actually they come to solve the economic problem or some other materialistic motives. So one should be careful not to closely associate with them by taking association. So there's a beautiful verse in the Chaitanya Chaitamrita, Krishna Bhakta Niskama Ata Eva Shanta, Bhukti Mukti Siddhikami Sakale Ashanta, which indicates that a devotee of Krishna is desireless in terms of not having material desires. So therefore that devotee is Shanta, is peaceful. Whereas fruit of workers or materialists, they desire material enjoyment, bhukti. And jnanis, mukti, they desire liberation. And siddhikami means the yogis, they desire material opulence by mystic power. And yeah, it says that in the translation itself, sakale ashanta. In other words, they are all, strong word is used, they are all very lusty and they cannot ever be peaceful. Only a devotee can be peaceful. So if one intimately takes association of these bhukti, mukti, and siddhi kami, that means the materialists, the jnanis, or the yogis, mystic yogis, then one will also become ashanta and one will lose one's peaceful condition. So therefore we should be careful that, we should not take the consciousness of the selfish desires, of others and then cause disturbances into our own consciousness. So one time, His Holiness Brhat Swami was in Madras, practically alone. And he was perhaps the first ISKCON devotee to go to South India. Madras means Chennai today, Chennai. The first devotee to go there and preach Krishna consciousness. But he was preaching so strongly and so boldly that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and no one else. See? That means he did not say that Lord Shiva is the Supreme Lord, which is quite well known as the Supreme in the south of India. So His Holiness Brhat Swami was being severely criticized by the people there. And the main criticism is, why don't you be broad-minded? You're so narrow-minded. There's restricting the Supreme to Krishna. There's also other Supremes. So His Holiness Brhat Swami wrote to Srila Prabhupada, and Prabhupada wrote back and gave an amazing answer, supporting him. And Prabhupada wrote that the fact is that I am the only one in India who is criticizing not only impersonalism and demigod worship, but anything that falls short of complete surrender to Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Prabhupada supported his preaching, his boldness in his preaching. And then Srila Prabhupada continued in the letter and said that we must declare it loudly that unless they surrender to Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they can never have peace or happiness. And then Srila Prabhupada continued and he said, my Guru Maharaj, that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, never compromised. I never compromised. And similarly, my disciples should never compromise. Very nice letter, Srila Prabhupada. So that is the fact. But sometimes people are unhappy with us. That's true. By not, not sort of agreeing with them that, Shiva is the supreme, or Brahma is the supreme, or Durga is the supreme. But what can we do? We have to present the scriptures as they are without any compromise. See? And in regard to associating with materialists, it is not easy for us in this material world. Why? Because, we sometimes you could say, we're out there in the material world. And Srila Prabhupada said, spiritual organization in the material world, very, very, very difficult proposition. So therefore, we are bombarded with so many things. Newspapers, television, social media, billboards. Just driving through some parts of the cities in Kuala Lumpur, or whether it's in Mumbai or Delhi, you see these liquor shops, you see these meat shops. It's actually not a good place to stay in, this material. See? So, and it can be very subtle also. These things can be very subtle although you're not grossly taking association of non-devotees, but these things affect the consciousness. So one time in Calcutta, our early disciple of Srila Prabhupada named Shyamasundar Prabhu. So Srila Prabhupada sort of caught him reading the Times magazine. For some reason, reading it. Of course, we should know what's happening in the world. And that's another thing which was discussed in the previous presentation by somebody asking such a question. But he was quite absorbed in reading the Time magazine. I mean, you can read, but not be absorbed in it, as like how you can be absorbed in Bhagavad Gita, you're absorbed in reading the Time magazine. Yeah. So Srila Prabhupada told him, he caught him reading the Time magazine. Prabhupada told him that these people are such big demons that we shouldn't even look at their faces, because that's how we'll be affected. So we should be careful, not like looking at the face of a materialist too intently in the magazines or in the newspapers. You may know what's happening, but don't like look at them, like as if there's like your presiding deity, this is there, in that sense. So Prabhupada admonished him. These people are such big demons that we shouldn't even look at their faces. But what to do? We're bombarded by it all over. But still, we should try to avoid being not intent on them or focusing too much on them. All right, Jana Sangas Chalolyam Cha. Any questions on this point, which brings us almost to the end of text number 2? Of course, I just want to add, as a point I just thought of now, is that one associates with big materialists and non-devotees, even in the office or even in university or one's other place of work. One associates practically every day. Every day. So therefore, it's better to chant one's rounds, as many rounds as possible in the morning before one goes out, and associates with these people on the basis of business or other things, work, going to university, hearing from them, and so forth. All right, any questions? Jana Sangastaloliam. That means associated with worldly minded persons. Prananath, something?
A devotee named Manish Shete.
Okay, come on to the screen.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dandavat Pranam.
Yes, Manish, we met in Govardhan Eco Village. I remember you
Yes,
told me.
Maharaj. Yes, Maharaj.
Tell me your question.
Yes, Maharaj, as you said that, it's we should avoid, however, it's not practical to avoid materialistic people. But what happens is like on a day-to-day basis, because you have to work, you find people in your offices also who are having materialistic mentality. But forget about those people. But at your home also you might be having people who are having materialistic mentality, and to a very high degree also. So then how do we deal with because our consciousness might get little bit affected because we are staying in one home. So how is it possible, or what are the preventive measures which we need to take so that our consciousness does not get much affected with such kind of things?
Well, I believe there was a question earlier in our presentation today in relation to that. I don't know what time you came on. What time did you come on to this?
I joined early at the from the beginning itself.
Or the beginning itself. I did mention there that we should be favorable to our family members and even friends. But the friends, they're friends of the material world. But at the same time, they can see that how your practice of Krishna consciousness is helping you to become a better person. Now, anyone with common sense would know,
right?
That in terms of your family members or friends, they'll know, oh, Manish is changing now. Manish is not doing the same things we used to do before. And common sense would dictate that they know that what we used to do before was not the best thing, even materially speaking. Just a waste of money and a waste of energy practically to engage in sinful activities or sense gratification. I'm not saying you may have done that, but I'm just using you as an example for the answer. Yeah. So when we improve culturally, and when we improve to become better persons as men and women of character, then anyone appreciates that. Anyone appreciates that. But however, there may be the extreme case where they don't like what you're doing because they know it's right, but they cannot accept it, that you are better than them. So in that sense, one should show them in your relationships with them that you're not proud and puffed up. You are still there for them, and you haven't become that, oh, he's a sadhu now in our family. Not like that. Don't let them get the impression that you are the sadhu in the family. No. You should show them that you are still there to serve them in whatever capacity, as a better son, as a better, daughter or husband or wife or mother or father. In other words, let them feel that. Don't let them feel that you are becoming better than them, either materially or even spiritually. That's where the problem will lie. So when they realize that you're a more worthy member of the family, that's all that matters. Not really that the Krishna conscious practices that you're involved in is affecting them in that way. Manish, is that okay?
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
All right, you're welcome. Other questions?
A question from Advaita Krishna Prabhu.
Advaita Krishna Prabhu, please come onto the screen.
Yes, Maharaj. Hare Krishna, Maharaj. My obeisances, Maharaj, on Krishna Prabhupada.
Oh, Krishna Prabhu. How did you get my link on these classes?
Right, yesterday Sumant told me, so I thought I should take advantage of this.
Yes, I have done the Nectar of Devotion previously, and now you'll find it in the YouTube. If you just type in my name full and write on Nectar of Devotion, you'll find it in the YouTube. If you need the link, Krishna Prema Pradak, I can send it to you of the previous classes. So tell
I'll
me.
request him for that, Maharaj.
Tell
Sure.
me.
Raj, two things I just quickly wanted to understand. One is about Lolyam. This Lolyam we also hear in the discussion between Ramanand Rai and Chaitanya
Now that
Mahaprabhu.
Lolyam
So
is
that
a little
Lolyam is
different.
about the greed to... Yeah,
One
yeah.
is greedy for Krishna consciousness, yes. That Lolyam is
Yes.
different from this Lolyam. See, it's like one can be greedy for spiritual life, or one can be greedy for material life. And the same word is used, Lolyam.
All right.
Is it all right?
Yes, Maharaj. And secondly,
And we have discussed this Lolyam Lolyam in great depth in the Nectar of Devotion classes in relation to greedy for love for Krishna and Radharani. With this, you can, if you want to go to that in your own time, you can access those talks.
sure, Maharaj, I'll do that. And secondly, Maharaj, when we hear about Asat Sang Tyag, now Asat is something which is anything in relation, which is not in relation to Krishna is Asat. So
Asat means temporary.
temporary, yeah.
Sat means permanent,
So,
eternal.
So
Go ahead.
anything which is, when we say Asat Sang Tyag, and we hear that non-association of people who are non-devotees, can we
Yeah.
also understand this in terms of Asat means anything which is not in relation to Krishna?
Yes. The actual Sanskrit is Asat Sanga Tyaga, and the actual meaning of that in the word for word is rejection of the association of non-devotees. That's what it actually means. In other words, rejection is a strong word. It's a very strong word. In other words, I said earlier today, in terms of Asat Sanga Tyaga, and in the translation, Srila Prabhupada doesn't use the word rejection as in the word for word. But Srila Prabhupada uses the word one should avoid the association of ordinary people or common people. See? In other words, avoiding is different from the word rejection. See? Rejection is a very strong word. It is given directly by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But Prabhupada cushions that word and says the Vaishnav should always avoid the association of ordinary people, especially common people, ordinary common people who are very much attached, especially to sense gratification. So in other words, in a practical level, we cannot really avoid, but we can avoid in our own consciousness by taking association. Avoid that, but try to give association. Whereas, other questions were asked in this relationship, like we cannot avoid association of people at work or in the factory or businessmen that you do business with. Yes, that is like a formality. In other words, don't get intimately involved with them. Do it as a matter of a prescribed duty of working, but not like intimately involved. Okay? So it's very important to this asat sanga tyag, whereas Mahaprabhu uses a strong word. It's actually called rejection. But Prabhupada uses a softer word. One should always avoid. Where Mahaprabhu said you must reject, but Prabhupada said should always avoid. Because we know that in the material world it's not so possible to always avoid. But we can avoid taking the association while still being with them and trying to give association. Save and accept the formality of doing business and so forth. Is that okay?
Yes, yes, Maharaj. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Maharaj.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Anyone else?
No, Maharaj. That's all for now.
All right, you can put slide number 38, no, slide number 37. Solution to Jana Sangha and Lolium. So Prabhupada says in paragraph 13, one should always engage in the service of the Lord in the association of the Lord's devotees. So this indicates that when you serve the Lord in the association of the Lord's devotees, then you also serve the devotees simultaneously. That's in paragraph 13. And Prabhupada continues in paragraph 13 in the purport. We've established the International Society for Krishna Consciousness to give people an opportunity to associate with those who have not forgotten Krishna. So the first one I single out in A indicates that one should serve the Lord and serve the devotees. And the second one indicates one should also spread Krishna consciousness. In other words, when you give association by giving Krishna consciousness to others, then you will not take automatically. So that's how you save oneself from Jana Sangha and not getting their consciousness of becoming greedy or lowly. All right, so in conclusion to this nice text too, we get to the next slide, 38. The next slide, slide 38. Put it onto the screen. In conclusion to text 2, in paragraph 23, when human society gives up these elementary faults enumerated by Srila Rupa Goswami, Atyahara, etc., all enmity will cease between men and animals, capitalists and communists, and so forth. In other words, everyone will be peaceful. In addition, all problems of economic or political maladjustment and instability will be solved. This pure consciousness is awakened by the proper spiritual education and practice. So we're doing spiritual education right now, offered scientifically by the Krishna consciousness movement. Put me back onto the screen. Any further questions on this beautiful text of how to prevent a spiritual fall down? Text number 2.
Prananath Prabhu has raised his hand.
Prananath, you raised your hand or you doing some yoga?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes.
Actually, it's regarding at workplace, the idea of being in a workplace. So is it not that it is a positive thing that it gives us an opportunity to preach and be more Krishna conscious?
Nice. You answered your own question.
We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you very well, Maharaj.
Yes, Maharaj. Repeat.
Okay. You have answered your own question. So at work, you should preach, but
Yes.
do not preach in such a way that you may lose your job. Don't do that.
No, that's true. No, because Akanksha and Manish were
You
talking.
should be, yeah, but you should be very careful. If the circumstances allow you to preach, then you do that
Yes.
without losing your job because you may need the job. Good. Anyone else?
No, Maharaj, that's all.
All right. So now let's get to text number 3 in your books. Text number 3. Beautiful text, which will also answer a lot of the questions. There's a number of questions about enthusiasm that came up previously in the last several days. So this will be answered to some extent. And we can take further questions on this point. Okay. And the text goes as follows. Beautiful text. Utsahan nishchayat daryat tat tat karma pravatanat sangatya gatsato vrite sadbir bhaktir prasidyati. And the translation, there are 6 principles favorable to the execution of pure devotional service. 1, being enthusiastic. 2, endeavoring with confidence. 3, being patient. 4, acting according to regulative principles such as Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, hearing, chanting, and remembering Krishna. 5, abandoning the association of non-devotees. And 6, following in the footsteps of the previous acharyas. These 6 principles undoubtedly assure the complete success of pure devotional service. So this particular text number 3 informs us how to make spiritual advancement. That means automatically you can prevent your fall down as given in text number 2. So the preface previously informed us about control of the mind and senses, is a prerequisite for spiritual life. And therefore text 1, just give me a moment, I just want to keep my book open. Okay, very good. So therefore text 1 explains the techniques for controlling the mind and senses. And our text 2, which we just completed, examines the 6 kinds of activities that can spoil one's devotional service and probably even fall down. And this beautiful text number 3 now discusses the 6 principles that help us to make spiritual advancement or progress on the path of pure devotional service. Now, in the purport, you will find in paragraph 1 immediately, Prabhupada in paragraph 1 and in paragraph 2 discusses the definition of pure devotional service, which we also elaborately discussed in the Nectar of Devotion series. So I'll briefly overview this for now. Okay? So what exactly is pure devotional service? You will find it in the purport, immediately the first quoted verse, beautiful verse, Anya Belasita Sunyam. You can put it as slide 39 on the screen. Yes, beautiful verse. Anya Vilasita Sunyam Jnana Karmadi Anavritam Anukulyana Krishna Anuselanam Bhakti Uttama. And the translation, when first class the devotional service develops, one must be devoid of all material desires, knowledge obtained by monastic philosophy, and fruit of action. The devotee must constantly serve Krishna favorably as Krishna desires, which is quoted from Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, chapter 19, text 167. See? So put me back onto the screen, and this is in your purport. See? So there's a beautiful word here which is sort of covered very nicely in this text number 3. It's called anukulyena. And anukulyena means the word anukulina basically in English means favorable. See? So favorability, anukulina, has basically two features to it. You should actually be favorable for Krishna's pleasure. In other words, Krishna gets pleasure from the activity of the devotee, not on his terms. Not on his terms. So if you want to serve Krishna on your terms, that may not be necessarily pleasurable to Krishna. But you have to serve Krishna as Krishna wants to be served, or as Krishna wants to be pleased. That is most important in the word anukulyana. But the other feature of this anukulyana is that one's own attitude towards Krishna should also be favorable. Not that, one engages in devotional service grudgingly, or one is engaging in devotional service because now I'm initiated, now I'm forced to do it.
Hare Krishna, the devotees. I think Maharaj, something happened to Maharaj. I think. Okay, Maharaj is back. Where is Maharaj? Okay. Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, can you hear me?
Yes, Maharaj. We disappeared for a moment.
Yeah, no, it's just a technical thing.
Okay, Maharaj.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah. So it's very important that this word anukulyana, like I'll just paraphrase again quickly. It has two features to it. One is that one should serve Krishna as Krishna wants to be served, on Krishna's terms, not on our terms. So that gives pleasure to Krishna. And Krishna derives pleasure from that. And the other aspect is that our attitude, one's attitude towards Krishna should be favorable. So these two conditions, or these two features, where Krishna is pleased as he wants to be pleased by your service, and your attitude is favorable but not grudgingly or you forced to do it, like that. When these two features are there, this in fulfilling Krishna's desires as he wants to get pleasure, and your attitude is favorable, then that is bhakti. That is called pure devotional service. That is bhakti. So this is the word, favorable. Now, in paragraph 2, you will find in your purport, paragraph 2, there's the word bhakti is a sort of cultivation is discussed. So I'm just going to overview that for you. So the cultivation of devotional service in relation to Krishna, it indicates that as soon as we say cultivation, it indicates activity. And Prabhupada says in paragraph 2, also that it's not like a silent meditation sort of stuff. It's actually action or activity. So that's the word anusilana in relationship to Krishna. Krishna anusilana. However, there is another understanding with this, which I also discussed in Nectar of Devotion, in detail. But I'll still give the example now just to not change the discussion a bit of anukulyana Krishna anusilana within the definition of pure devotional service. We all know that, in the Damodar Leela, that Mother Yasoda was breastfeeding Krishna, but the milk in the pot, over the fire began to sort of boil over. So then she sort of abruptly set aside Krishna and went to attend to the milk in the pot that was overflowing into the fire practically. See? So as a result, this made Krishna very angry, and he also started to cry. And in his anger, we know what happened. He broke the other butter pots and really transcendently messed up the whole place also. See? So the question can be asked, is Mother Yasoda engaged in pure devotional service? Because when we say anukulyana, it must give Krishna pleasure. But here, it apparently did not give Krishna any pleasure when Mother Yasoda left Krishna and went to attend to the milk that was boiling over into the fire. Right? It apparently appears like that. See? So what she did does not seem favorable for Krishna's pleasure, because Krishna became very, very angry and upset, in the sense that Mother Yasoda was giving more importance to the milk and the fire rather than Krishna. So was she engaged in pure devotional service? And the answer is an emphatic yes. So Mother Yasoda's attitude was favorable because, in the end, although Krishna wasn't pleased, but there are two requirements or two features also in this sense, is that the attitude of the performer should be favorable, and that the other thing, that Krishna should also be pleased. See? Now, Mother Yasoda was actually in Vatsalya Ras. In other words, parental affection. See? So as parents, Mother Yasoda is the supreme mother, of Krishna. She did not neglect Krishna for the sake of the milk, but because she's in Vatsalya Ras, the parents are allowed to chastise the children, and sometimes they have to discipline the children. And at the same time, in disciplining the children have to accept what the parents do and say, whether they like it or not. But on the other hand, we know that the milk on the fire was feeling destitute, or feeling that if Krishna is fully, fully drinking the milk and will not be hungry later, then he may not take advantage of accepting me, in service as making milk sweets for Krishna. So Mother Yasoda had to do that, because everything in Mother Yasoda's household is for the pleasure of Krishna. And even at that moment, if Krishna is not pleased, still it is for the pleasure of Krishna, because this is very transcendental, high level Vatsalya Ras. So we should know that same verse that I have quoted earlier, Tadiyanam samachanam, aradhananam sarvesham, Vishnu aradhanam param, tasmat parataram devi tadiyanam samachanam. So tadiya means things, paraphernalia, items or devotees related to Krishna, for Krishna's pleasure. So it also includes the milk that was in the pot that was overflowing into the fire, as of committing suicide, is also non-different to give pleasure to Krishna. So by serving the milk, Mother Yasoda was also serving Krishna. Either directly by breastfeeding him, or indirectly by serving the milk for Krishna's pleasure, to make nice milk sweets for him, as a mother will do for the child. So Jiva Goswami also explains that the milk, although a devotee of Krishna, because everything in the spiritual world is completely conscious, so the milk was actually feeling that, I will not get a chance to serve Krishna. I'll never get a chance to serve Krishna. So therefore, let me boil over. In that way, Mother Yasoda will have to put down Krishna. And because, if he's not satisfied fully by drinking the milk from a breast, then I'll get the chance to serve Krishna in that way. So Krishna knows the desires of the devotee to please him. So Krishna accepted it, but he did some other things. And that other thing led to the famous Damodar Leela. By the milk overflowing into the fire, it gave us all the chance to relish the Damodar Leela. If Mother Yasoda hadn't went to the milk on the fire, over the fire that has been, sort of committing suicide into the fire, or by boiling over the pot and entering into the fire, then we would not have got the glorious Damodar Leela. So one act of one devotee as the milk led to this entire feature of this beautiful pastime of the Damodar Leela. So everything is on the absolute platform. Everything is on the absolute platform in this spiritual world. And Srila Prabhupada quotes the verse from the Bhagavad Gita in relation to this from the 10th canto in the purport. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajate pratipurvakam Adami buddhi yogam tam yanamam upayanti. In other words, Krishna can give the understanding to a devotee of what to do. Adami buddhi yogam tam. So that understanding Krishna may have given to the milk. You boil over. See? And externally Krishna became angry because that's what will happen. If he doesn't get upset and angry, then there's no Damodar Leela. See? So Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam. So Krishna gives the intuition about how we should act to please him. So Krishna's displeasure led to the pleasure of Mother Yasoda increasing a love for Krishna by binding him, as parents will do to discipline the children. All right, I can take some questions for now in this, in a beginning introduction to text number 3. Anyone?
So far, no questions, Maharaj.
Good. Well, not so good at the same time. Questions are always welcome. Yeah. All right, so let's get to slide number 40. And this is the very first 2 lines in the purport. You'll see in paragraph 1. It's the very first lines in the purport. It's very beautifully given by Srila Prabhupada. A devotional service is not a matter of sentimental speculation or imaginative ecstasy. Its substance is practical activity. Okay. Put me back onto the screen. Yes. What does this actually mean? One time in London, in the early times when Prabhupada first went there, but Prabhupada's visiting London was preceded by those 3 couples, Shama Sundar and Madhamalati, Mukunda Prabhu at that time, and his wife Janaki, and our Gurudas Prabhu and Mother Yamuna. Those 3 glorious couples who opened up Krishna consciousness. So they had a place for Srila Prabhupada to stay when he came, and he was staying like on a first floor of a building. So Prabhupada had his own balcony, from inside the quarters that's coming out onto like the roadside, his own balcony. And in the next room, Mother Yamuna was staying also. And she also had her own balcony. Yeah. Now you got to remember that, these 3 devotee couples, Wood Little Saraswati was Shama Sundar's and Malati's daughter. They have sacrificed so many, they have sacrificed practically their own family, living as a family, to spread Krishna consciousness. And this cannot be imitated. They're really, legends in ISKCON. Really legends in ISKCON. So one time, Mother Yamuna, she came onto the balcony where they were staying, and she was looking out. So while she was doing that, then Srila Prabhupada just came out of the balcony, as a matter of fact, also, like a few minutes later. So Prabhupada's eyes met Mother Yamuna's eyes. And Prabhupada heard every word she was saying, because the balconies were like next door, the rooms were next door in the same place, in the same apartment. So Mother Yamuna, in a deep state of love for Srila Prabhupada, she expressed a word. She said, Srila Prabhupada, I love you very much. And Srila Prabhupada said only 3 words. Yes, I know. And he went back into the room. Went back into the room. So there may have been some exchange between Mother Yamuna and Guru Das, of this particular exchange with Srila Prabhupada. See? And somehow that news, what Prabhupada said, yes, I know, to Mother Yamuna, somehow that news kind of spread. See? So that news spread, of course, this special relationship with Mother Yamuna and Srila Prabhupada is actually unique. It's actually unique. It's not like that kind of relationship also exists with other disciples of Prabhupada. Although Prabhupada is connected to everyone, but still, this is a very unique situation. Very unique between Mother Yamuna and Srila Prabhupada. So some of the news spread in different places in the world that this exchange took place. Now we know, even all of us, on the Zoom talk, we know that we all love Srila Prabhupada. We all love Srila Prabhupada, whether we met him in person or not. That love is there for Srila Prabhupada. See, which is in relationship to loving Radha and Krishna. We know that. See? So when we express it, that's fine. Express it, that's fine. So another Mataji, she definitely loved Srila Prabhupada. So when she met Srila Prabhupada, somewhere in America, when she heard this, she also wanted to express her sentiments to Srila Prabhupada, because as Mother Yamuna did, who was a unique relationship with Srila Prabhupada. So she also said something to the effect, Srila Prabhupada, I love you. Like that. And Srila Prabhupada kind of looked at her firmly, but with great affection, looked at her. Prabhupada said, yes, I know, but do something practical to express your love. Or he may have said, don't talk nonsense, do something practical. I forget the exact words as I heard it. But do something practical. So this comes to this point that we just put on the screen. You can put it back on slide number 40. Devotional service is not a matter of sentimental speculation or imaginative ecstasy. Its substance is practical activity. So you can put me back on the screen. So what does it indicate? It indicates that devotion means love. And love means activity. Serving the object of one's love. So service, devotional service means actually activity. I have personally, I have looked into the translations. I'm in the bona fide translations of the works of the 6 Goswamis, the books of the 6 Goswamis, and other previous acharyas like Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Narottam Das Thakur, and so forth. But I never came across any words that Srimati Radharani tells Krishna, like Radhe to Shyam. I never come across any words like, even it's in this translation that Radharani tells Krishna, I love you very much. There's no such thing. But love is expressed by activity, is expressed by engaging in devotional service. Just like, materially speaking, people are so external, so external. They may ask somebody, like a son or daughter may ask the mother, do you love me? And that's like an insult, to ask a cultured mother. And then, sometimes, the girlfriend or boyfriend or the husband or the wife, they say, I love you very much. By saying that, they actually motivated to get some more jewelry or some other thing. So there's no real love in there. There's only motivations for one's own sense gratification, practically. So therefore, actual devotion means love, and love means activity, serving the object of one's love. And that service is an expression of one's love where one doesn't need to actually express it in words. And Radharani never expresses in words. She just serves Krishna out of devotion in that way. But this was a special exchange between Mother Yamuna and Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada accepted it. And she definitely, felt to express her affection and emotion to Srila Prabhupada. It's definitely there. However, but she definitely gave her life and so much activity to express her love also in devotional service to Srila Prabhupada and to Sri Sri Radha Krishna. Okay, so now, what is the process of that practical activity? That process of the practical activity is continued in paragraph number 2 and paragraph number 3 and paragraph number 4. Okay, so we'll get to the next slide, slide 41. It gives you a summary of paragraph 2, 3, and 4. So what is this process of the practical activity of devotional service that expresses our love through activity under the guidance of the spiritual master in paragraph 2, 3, and 4? It's the 9 items or 9, you could say, processes or ways of engaging in devotional service. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, and so forth, like Achanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. Hearing the name and glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, chanting His glories, remembering the Lord, serving the Lord's lotus feet, worshipping the deity, offering obeisances unto the Lord, acting as the Lord's servant, making friends with the Lord, and surrendering oneself fully to the Lord. So this is practical activity. So we have some minutes left. We can take some questions on this basis and continue tomorrow with each item, like Utsaha, Nishayat, Daryat. But this is all in the first practically 4 paragraphs of the purport which I just discussed. So we can take some question now, if you have, in the next few minutes. Anyone?
So far, no one is asking any questions, Maharaj. Okay, Sita
It would be nice.
Mataji. Sita Thakurani Mataji. She just raised.
Okay, Sita, please come on the screen, Sita.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
This is actually, I feel from my heart that I don't like to serve anyone.
What's that?
I don't like to serve anyone.
I don't understand what you're saying. Whether you like to serve or don't like to serve, we are still serving. So what's your actual question?
I feel that as if I don't have love for anyone and I do service grudgingly.
But, okay, let me come back into the screen. I am not sure of your internal attitude of your question, but I'll speculate. Your internal attitude of your question is one of humility. So based on that, I'm giving an answer. You may not know it. Somebody who is humble may not know it. But somebody who says that I am humble may not be humble. Okay? So your internal attitude is definitely one of humility, because when you said no, that means it's a confirmation that it's yes for me. So therefore, you are serving your family members, right? As best as you can. And as far as possible, you are taking the association of devotees, which you are currently doing right now even. We have so many devotees on the Zoom call, and you are one of them, and you are hearing from Srila Prabhupada and hearing from Srila Rupa Goswami. And for whatever it's worth, I'm trying to be the via medium for that hearing from Srila Prabhupada and Srila Rupa Goswami. So you are doing fairly well. And also you are chanting your japa as best as you can, right? So you're having direct association in service to Radha and Krishna by chanting japa. See? So I do appreciate your sentiments, but also you are involved in a lot of practical activity, which manifests one's love and manifests one's affection in the process of the activity of devotional service. Are you doing that? You're engaging in some service? Yes or no? You have to unmute yourself.
At present, I'm only into chanting and reading and hearing.
That's devotional service. So chanting means, hearing and chanting means number 1 and 2, Shravanam Kirtanam. And number 3 is Smaranam. You're remembering the Lord. So you one or more of these processes of devotional service you're already engaged in. Even one of them can, even just associating with one of these processes can bring you all perfection and take you back to God. So don't worry. It's not so negative. It's all positive for you. You're doing well. Okay? So I'd like to conclude on time, and you will find that in paragraph 4 in the purport, you can find it later on, but it's not on the slide. It's not on the slide. And Srila Prabhupada says that the good fortune of the association of pure devotees may be sometimes rare. And Prabhupada will quote a verse, Brahmanda Brahmiti Kona Bhagavan Guru Krishna Prasad Paya Bhakti Lata Beach. So we are all very fortunate because it's quite rare to be involved in devotional service. And Srila Prabhupada so nicely says in paragraph 4 that the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, or ISKCON, is giving such a chance to humanity at large. It's saving humanity, actually. And if by fortune one takes advantage of this opportunity in devotional service, then we are free. Our path of liberation immediately opens to go back home, back to God. So that is an extremely important. Our ISKCON is actually, a gift to the entire humanity on this planet. All right. I am glad and happy that I have been in your company once again today, and will continue to make me glad and happy to be in your company again tomorrow, same time. Srila Prabhupada ki,
Jai.
Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada ki,
Jai.
Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki,
Jai.
Nectar Instruction ki, Bhakti
Jai.
Rasa Sindhu ki,
Jai.
Nitai Go Premanande,
Hari
Hari
Bol.